So hi, good morning. So last settlement we need to start. Mahalwari settlement. So we have completed permanent and Rayatwadi. And after Mahalwari, so as I mentioned to you that there is a not so bland but फिर भी bland है. कुछ जगह पे it's all okay, but then otherwise some places it's all fact. That is the civil and tribal uprisings. So let's start with the Mahalwari system. एक बार title लिख लो. Mention Mahalwari system. Mahalwari settlement. So now understand what was this Mahalwari settlement. So first of all, it gets its name from the word Mahal, and Mahal was group of villages. A group of villages, and basically in medieval India, when you read about Akbar's administration, so Mahal division was created by Akbar only, and in fact Akbar created many subdivisions like province. Then so province was called as Suba. Then after Suba was zones were called as Sarkar. Then blocks were called as districts were called as Pargana, and blocks were called as Mahal. So Mahal is a group of village or the fiscal unit. Now first of all, who introduced पहले ये बात कर लेते हैं. So originally in 1819 it was introduced by Holt Mackenzie in western UP part. Then so UP part, and then after by 1822 Martin Bird he further extended to rest of North India. It covered near about 30% area of the British India. Then so this is the introduction part. Let's come to the provision part of the Mahalwari settlement. So provision में ही पहला चीज, very first thing we'll be writing that why it is called as Mahalwari, because Mahal or a group of villages were chosen as the fiscal unit. And what is fiscal unit? Revenue collection unit. ठीक है? So revenue collection unit. Now understand another thing, that this is a settlement which is believed to be a little bit of mixture of the Zamindari system and so as the Rayatwadi system. But then more of a character was there with the Rayatwadi, some of the characters were there with the permanent settlement. So who collected the revenue in these areas? First of all, that peasants, land ownership right was given to the peasant. It was permanent and it was hereditary and transferable. But the revenue collection rights were signed with the village headman. And there are many popular names of authorities in North and Northwest India. Like, have you heard the word Thikadar? Okay? So there were Thikadars who were chosen for collection of revenue, and so as the very popular in Haryana and some parts of Rajasthan and Western UP, Lambardar. Have you heard? Those who are from there, they must have heard. So they were the one who were collecting the revenue, Thikadar, Lambardar and village headman. Then now the question rises that how the rate was calculated. Actually, it was a very clumsy system, not very crystal clear system. We'll tell you later. So whatever the revenue was collected, generally, मतलब अगर जो village headman ने whatever revenue he has collected, so in that revenue, generally 66% belong to the British and rest of the remaining 33% to the village headman or जो whoever his intermediary, that is Thikadar or who all are collecting, so they are getting 33%. So this is similar to which system? Permanent or Rayatwadi? बताओ. It is permanent, na? Intermediaries are there. So it is similar to permanent. And what is similar to Rayatwadi? Land ownership right to the peasants. Okay? So that is similar to the Rayatwadi. Then understand one more thing, that what was the rate of the tax on the peasant? It was not very pre-decided. It depended on how much land holding he has. And किसके पास कितनी जमीन है उसके हिसाब से उसका शेयर डिसाइड होता था. So according to their land holding, their share was decided. So particularly suppose that in a mahal, ठीक है, 500 peasants are there. So each peasants will have their own share. Then and in this share, what is there? That according to their land holding. So मान लो मेरा 5, I have a 5 acre of land. So my tax share would be different. You have 10 acre of land. You have different tax share. So now what is required in it? Can you tell that what is required in it for calculating the taxes and then land के बारे में जानना, that who has how much of land? Land survey, very good, exactly. So one of the core feature of this settlement was land survey, and so as the measurement of the land. Then so land survey, measurement of the land, and in fact it was also said that this land, that whatever be the acreage of the land, that must be noted in a register, and so as even the map of the land was also to be created. So in today's time, I don't know you have heard or not, but अपने parents से पूछोगे, so they will tell you it is often called as khasara and khatna. And so these are the Persian words which are used for the land units, ठीक है? And then that's how कभी भी registrar office में जाओगे, wherever your land record is maintained, so it is written in this way only. So this is the system which started. Then so this is system which started. Now it has similar features like both the settlement, that if anybody is not able to make the payment, so land ownership can be snatched. Okay, so land ownerships can be snatched, meaning that on time payment must be there. Then so this is what is one part or provision of the settlement. But interesting is the outcome of the settlement, impact. So we'll discuss later on. First you write, mention. पहले लिखो, it was introduced by Holt Mackenzie. You can see the spelling. Holt Mackenzie in 1819. In 1819. And in Western UP. In Western UP. Later by 1822, Martin Bird. Later by 1822, Martin Bird extended it to rest of North India. Martin Bird extended it to rest of North India. Then mention it covered near about 30% of British India. 30% area of British India. 30% area of British India. Then let's come to the provisions. So provisions में लिखो, mention it had mixture of both permanent and Rayatwadi system. It had mixture of both permanent and Rayatwadi system. Full stop. Then mention for the collection of revenue. Next point. For the collection of revenue, Mahal as fiscal unit. For the collection of revenue, Mahal as fiscal unit chosen. Fiscal unit chosen. Then आगे लिखो, Mahal as fiscal unit chosen. Full stop. Mahal was group of villages. Mahal was group of villages. Done. Next point. Revenue collection rights. Revenue collection rights or agreements were signed with. Revenue collection rights were signed with village headman, ठेकेदार, and lambardars. Tikadars and lambardars. Done. Then mention. Next point लिखो आगे. Land ownership right was given to the peasants. Land ownership right was given to the peasants. It was hereditary and transferable. It was hereditary and transferable. Done. But the ultimate ownership of land lay in the hands of British authority. Lay in the hands of British authority. Then next you write, from the collected revenue, British share was 66%, और 2/3 भी लिख सकते हो. British share was 66% or 2/3 or 2/3. Done. And rest was that is 1/3, and rest was that is 1/3 for the revenue collectors. Done. Then mention tax rates on peasants varied on the basis of land holding. Full stop. Next point. Taxes were calculated after the land survey and measurement. Then mention taxes were collected after land survey and measurement. And land record was also maintained. Then in this settlement also there was a provision of revision after 30 years. Okay? So mention there was provision. Next point, there was provision of revision. In revenue rates after an interval of 30 years. 30 साल के बाद. So now understand that what were the reasons. Actually, reasons were very similar to the Rayatwadi, and in some instance, their reasons are inspired from the permanent also. So reasons may, first of all, as per the utilitarian view, they have once again given the land ownership right to the peasants. Right? Then apart from it, one thing that they have taken from the permanent, they wanted to cut the administrative cost, okay, in collection of the revenue, and that's how they have signed the agreements with the village headman or lambardar or basically tikadar. So this provision is from there. Then and then moreover, Why utilitarian view already we have mentioned earlier also, कल भी इतना detail में किया था. तो what was the purpose? That when the production land would be with the peasant, so they will be having emotional attachment, and so as that fertility of the land will not go down because they would be working because it is their land. Then, so counting these all reason, and one more thing, that this area was the most fertile belt of India, which includes Punjab, Haryana, and entire Gangetic Plain. So it was the most fertile area. So they wanted to keep the rates comfortable so that then there would be some motivation to the peasants that they will be doing a good, that they will be practicing that a kind of a, no, not practicing, sorry, cash crops also they will be cultivating, and at the same point of time this will be used as a raw material, say, that will be sent to the Britain. I'll tell you one example. Generally we say that what are the cotton belts of India? कल बात किया था हमने, ठीक है? तमिलनाडु, गुजरात, and then Andhra, Maharashtra, ठीक है? Karnataka. But then in today's time, do you know that which all places, even other than these areas, कहीं पे cotton cultivation होता है? Yes, Malwa of Malwa तो चलो it will come in the Deccan, ठीक है? मतलब closer to Deccan. पंजाब एक्चुअली, ठीक है? मालवा ऑफ पंजाब, वेरी गुड. पंजाब में कई सारे रीजन, माझा रीजन, मालवा रीजन, ठीक है? सो यू माइट नॉट बी नोइंग, ठीक है? इट्स इज इंटरेस्टिंग दैट एक मालवा है जो ट्राई जंक्शन है गुजरात, राजस्थान एंड मध्य प्रदेश, बट देन देयर इज अ मालवा इन द पंजाब ऑल्सो. सो you will be understanding when you will be reading geography. So in that region cotton cultivation happens, and who introduced it? British at this time, ठीक है? So the peasants were given some sort of kind of motivation कि आप लोग करो, आपको पैसे ज़्यादा मिलेंगे, you will get more money from this. Then moreover, do you have any idea that in any part of the Punjab sugarcane cultivation happens? या हरियाणा? हरियाणा में नहीं देखा है? वेस्टर्न यूपी देखा है ना? So Western UP, is it suited for the sugarcane cultivation? Is it suited for West? अच्छा चलो, tell me that what kind of plant is sugarcane? Water intensive, ठीक है? Water intensive plant, and कितने what is the cycle? 18-month cycle. So 18-month cycle, water intensive. So which area is water aplenty? Eastern UP or Western UP? Eastern UP and the entire coastal belt of India. Then, so Western UP is not water aplenty, but then here the cultivation is happening, sugarcane. The reason is that one is the historic. Even in Punjab also they introduced sugarcane, and so as in the Western UP side, which came under this settlement because it is the cash crop, and we talked about the sugarcane. So Western UP is not suited for it, and even today's time people, if they are doing the sugarcane cultivation, so they are just spelling a doom for their future generation because it is a water intensive plant. I'll tell you something, ठीक है? Wait करना. This question has been asked in the mains also, but not from this particular part. It has been asked from the geography part or agriculture part. So why people do cultivation over there? Because electricity subsidy, ठीक है? Particularly after the Green Revolution, electricity subsidy was given to people, and fertilizer subsidy also. Particularly those who have gone with the high yield variety seeds, ठीक है? And hybrid seeds, I would say, from 1967, then Green Revolution के time पे. So many subsidies were given, and then, so what happens that when electricity subsidy is there, जो लोग हैं वेस्टर्न यूपी से बुरा मत मानना, it is not about, it's all about that correcting what is wrong. Then, so you are tapping the water from the ground, and होता क्या है कि sugarcane is called as a lazy crop, ठीक है? And those who cultivate the sugarcane, they are called as lazy farmers, ठीक है? The reason is कुछ करना नहीं होता sugarcane में, एक बार लगा दिया और फिर उसके बाद छोड़ दिया, ठीक है? So in monsoon areas it is all up to the monsoon, कि भगवान की मर्जी होगी तो अच्छे से हो जाएगा, नहीं होगी तो गया, ठीक है? So then, so in monsoon areas where hell lot of rain happens, so automatically water logging होता है. अभी ये season start हो गया from the June onwards, बारिश नहीं हो रही अलग बात है, but then from June onwards and till October first week there would be good water logging in the sugarcane, and then there would be growth. Then, but then ऐसा situation वेस्टर्न यूपी में नहीं होता है, ठीक है? In this entire part, water logging does not happen. But how we create, we do the water logging? इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सब्सिडी है, कोई बहुत इतना चार्ज नहीं आ रहा है, एंड देन पंपिंग सेट्स, ठीक है, एंड विद द पंपिंग सेट्स वी आर टैपिंग द वाटर एंड रात भर छोड़ दिया, 24 घंटे छोड़ दिया, ठीक है, इवन दे हैव लेफ्ट इट फॉर द 3 days, सो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. इवन इफ द वाटर इज ओवरफ्लोइंग, द plant, it is good for the plant, ठीक है, it will tolerate it, so there is no problem. But then if some other plants are there where water is overflowing and the plant has submerged, तो plant तो मर जाएगा, but sugarcane तो मरेगा नहीं. So that's why there is मतलब it is said that the farmers of the Western UP are more interested in the politics than in the agriculture, ठीक है. So now this is a problem. क्या है इससे, ठीक है, when you are tapping hell lot of water from the ground, so it creates capillary action, and with the capillary action what happens, salt comes to the ground and it will be salt pane formation on the top of it. So when the salt pane formation would be there, the soil will become less fertile, and day by day it is becoming less fertile. So that is for Western UP people to think about, even for Punjab people also to think about, that Punjab people must not do the paddy cultivation, rice का cultivation, biggest producer of the rice, ठीक है, though generally climate wise it must be Eastern UP, Bihar, Bengal, ठीक है, but then है कौन, Punjab, ठीक है, Punjab and Haryana, if we combine na, so they are the highest producer of the rice. So this is also the problem, and this question has been asked in your mains, ठीक है, that why the fertility in the Punjab area is decreasing, particularly related to the soil. Then so it is the groundwater tapping and salt formation, और पूरा का पूरा ऊपर का layer soil का खराब हो रहा है. And when one more thing, अब salt से क्या नुकसान होता है, ठीक है, there are beneficial bacteria, there are beneficial worms which must be there in the soil. And what is the most beneficial worm? Earthworm, ठीक है, earthworm. ऊपर अगर जो नमक कभी बचपन में छिड़का है ना नमक earthworm पे, many of you must have done, किया है या नहीं किया है, भले ऐसे करके बोल रहे हो, मैंने भी किया है, ठीक है, इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ. नाउ आई रिपेंट, आई मस्ट नॉट हैव डन इट, बट देन सो यू मस्ट हैव सीन ना दैट व्हाट हैपेंस टू अर्थवर्म, इट डाइज. सोचो, ठीक है, नीचे से अगर जो सॉल्ट ऊपर आ रहा है तो अर्थवर्म जिंदा कहाँ रहेगा. सो दैट इज व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम देन. सो दैट इज व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम that is happening right now. And in fact, we are responsible in today's time, but then actually British introduced these all for their own interest and to get money as soon as possible. So that was the one reason, that introduction of these crops which are not suited in this area. Cotton was suited in the Deccan area, but not in this part of the country, or basically sugarcane and these all. So mention karo, you write. What is the last thing you have written? So provisions we have written. Ab likho reasons for its implementation. Then mention. Number one, repeat ही कर रहे हैं कुछ चीजें. As per utilitarian thought, as per utilitarian thought, land ownership right was given to the peasants. Land ownership right was given to the peasants. Then mention. British wanted, next you write, British wanted to encourage cash crops like sugarcane and cotton cultivation in this area. Cash crops like sugarcane and cotton cultivation in this area. To feed the British industries. Next point. To save Next you write to save administrative expense in collection of revenue. To save administrative expense in collection of revenue, contracts were signed with intermediaries. Contracts were signed with intermediaries. Done? Then you write learning from Rayatwadi, they also kept learning from Rayatwadi, they also kept provision of revision in revenue rates, provision of revision in revenue rates after an interval of 30 years. After an interval of 30 years. Done? So we'll write the outcomes of it, but uske pehle I just want to share one more thing. Economics, there are two places where you read about the land reforms done. And these two places, one is basically post independence and ek to economics mein hi padhte ho, theek hai, in your economy classes itself. And what is green revolution? Green revolution is the part of the land reform itself. Then so now when we are going to talk about the outcomes mein there is a discussion related to it. So first of all, any idea about that why the when green revolution, why it was introduced or why it was necessary at that time? To increase the yield of the for food security and to increase the yield of the food grains. Then now understand, I'll tell you one story. Maybe पता नहीं अब इकोनॉमिक्स में तो कम पढ़ाते हैं, but then post independence में थोड़ा बहुत होता है. 1950s के बाद में India had many challenges, and one of the challenge was basically it was always with the Pakistan then, and another was the China. So our Prime Minister, he went to China, and then he was so enamored by their reception, and then there were slogans like Hindi Chini bhai bhai, ठीक है. On one hand, ठीक है, Hindi और चीनी हो रहा था, and then on the other hand, Chinese was creating the route in the Aksai Chin, ठीक है. And when he came to India, he figured out that it was a kind of betrayal. And then after, you know that what happened? The India-China war. India-China war, and then so as the India-Pakistan war has also happened. So now, in this situation, what was issue in India was the food security. And in fact, the hunger situation has reached to its climax, peak level. So that is the time when death of Jawaharlal Nehru has happened, and Lal Bahadur Shastri, he became the new Prime Minister in a crisis situation. So Jawaharlal Nehru, that Lal Bahadur Shastri, he appealed to the nation, ठीक है, you know what? हाँ, एक समय कम खाना और फास्टिंग के लिए मंगलवार व्रत रख लो, and that गुरुवार व्रत रख लो, and then so as the Saturday, so dedicated to a deity. So if 3 days, take a good chunk of, or even 1 day, if somebody is keeping the fast, so that particular food is available for others. Then, so that's how Vrat Rakhna became a kind of a common thing. Take care. And moreover, though obviously it's a religious thing, but at the same point of time, it's helping the society and the community. Moreover, he also gave a slogan at that time, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. So Jai Jawan is for the border where we are fighting with the China and Pakistan, and Jai Kisan over here because they will be focusing on the cultivation. But Jai Kisan mein now understand the problems related to the Green Revolution also. Not only the good aspect, but also problem. So at this point of time, was USA on the side of India or Pakistan? It was always a good friend of Pakistan. It's only very recently US has changed the sides. Okay? So Pakistan, and moreover, US was the biggest producer of the wheat at that time. So Indian government has requested for food grain, okay, particularly the wheat. So US government signed an agreement with India that is known as PL 480. And as per the PL 480 scheme, wheat was provided to India. Then, so wheat was provided to India in those years to sustain. Then, moreover, uske saath bhi ek problem hai, but we'll tell you that problem I'll come later. Now, the agreement was that Indians and Green Revolution must be introduced in India. And what is Green Revolution? Indian farmers must go ahead with the hybrid seeds. Okay? So, in India, what we were cultivating, that the yield of the, suppose if you are using the Indian wheat, so Indian wheat ka jo bhi yield hai, the hybrid variety seed, its yield would be more than 3 times. ठीक है? So obviously एक ही खेत से जहां 1 एकड़ से 10 kg निकालते हो, 30 kg would be there. So that is one that will be leading to the food security. And in fact, Indians were using the wild variety of the seeds, meaning that the indigenous seeds for gehu, for chawal, ठीक है? For everything. So we are using indigenous variety. Now, you know that any change, if it is introduced, it faces resistance. कोई भी नया काम करने से पहले रेजिस्टेंस होता है, ठीक है? फॉर एग्जाम्पल एनीथिंग यू कंसिडर, ठीक है? फॉर योर सेल्फ ऑल्सो, फर्स्ट टाइम यू आर गोइंग बाल्ड, there will be a resistance, ठीक है? Any work that you are doing, so resistance. So initially there was resistance among the Indian farmers, then that they will not be using the Videsi seed and they will be using the Indian seed only. But then government has to give assurance to them, and assurance was given to the farmers that they would be given many subsidies, and these subsidies are the one which I was discussing: electricity subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, even the agricultural equipment subsidy. So when you are going to purchase a tractor, so tractor pe bhi subsidy, ठीक है? So just like in other vehicles there is more taxes, but tractor pe kam taxes honge. So it was explored with the farmers of India, and those who got ready were basically the farmers of the Punjab and Haryana, okay, and Western UP, but great extent Punjab. So obviously it's a great courage from their side that they were ready for it, and the cultivation started from Punjab. So initial area of the Green Revolution was Punjab, then Haryana, and so as the Western UP. Got it? But problem kya tha iske saath? Problem was hybrid seed. Now, what is the problem with the hybrid seed? Hybrid seeds have only one generation. There is no second generation. You understand? Meaning, suppose you have cultivated hybrid seeds this year, you can't use the wheat which has grown as a seed for next year. You will have to purchase from the market once again the seeds. Then, getting it? तो second generation नहीं होता है. जैसे इस ईयर जो wheat लगाया उसका seed use करोगे, grow ही नहीं होगा. ठीक है? ग्रो भी हो गया तो उसमें फ्रूट्स ही नहीं आएंगे, नथिंग विल हैपन, ठीक है? सो इट मीन्स दैट एवरी ईयर यू विल हैव टू परचेज द सीड्स, एंड दिस हाइब्रिड सीड टेक्नोलॉजी वाज इट देयर इन इंडिया? नो, you will have to purchase it from the US. Then so you will become US dependent on your agriculture. So PL 480 scheme from the US side was not a generous, it was their business as usual. Then, and moreover, there is one more problem with the hybrid seed. The phytonutrients would be less. Though हमारी yield कम थी जो हमारी पुरानी variety है, but then there were many phytonutrients. And phytonutrients, you understand? Phyto मतलब plant, and nutrients. So what are the nutrients? Some vitamins, some minerals, zinc, and these all. So they have full nutrition. Okay? But then these hybrid seeds, they will not be having that nutrition. Getting it? So for example, बहुत बार ad देखा हो टीवी पे आज भी, that ये आटा खरीदिए, ये MP के लाल गेहूं का आटा है. Have you heard? So what is, why they called MP का लाल गेहूं? It was the indigenous variety of India which has yield also and then good phytonutrients also. So this is what is the problem. Now I hope you understood. So production तो बढ़ा, but उसके साथ there are other problems also. And one more problem which US has sent to India is the Congress grass. Then I don't know that you know or not, but then when the PL 480 scheme was finalized and wheat was sent to India, so with this wheat, obviously some weeds also come, okay? And there was this weed of the Parthenium grass. So you will understand that what is Parthenium grass. You all have seen. I'll tell you where. हाँ, गाजर घास उसको हिंदी में ऐसे बोलते, वैसे तो बोलते कांग्रेस ग्रास, ठीक है। कहाँ देखोगे, कहीं पे भी अगर जो रेलवे जा रहे हो, ठीक है, बस ट्रैक्स पे देख लो, जो दिल्ली से बाहर निकले ट्रैक्स पे देख लो, साइड में देयर वुड बी अ गाजर काइंड ऑफ, एज यू सेड, सो लाइक दैट ओनली दिस मच प्लांट वुड बी देयर, shrub, एंड देन वाइट फ्लावर्स वुड बी देयर, ठीक है। So that is a Congress grass. And Congress grass is what? It is an exotic species. What is exotic species? Invasive species. Invasive तो पता है ना? तो invasive species meaning that they can grow at anywhere, anytime, any place, ठीक है, and they will dominate the other plants at that particular place. Then, so they will be a weed and they will be covering these all. Now, why US did it? Any idea? To sold their insecticides, weedicides. Getting it? And now there is no remedy for this Parthenium grass till this point of time. ठीक है, पूरे इंडिया में। एंड इसको कांग्रेस ग्रास क्यों बोला, विल टेल यू, उसका भी रीजन था। सो इट वाज कॉल्ड एज कांग्रेस ग्रास बिकॉज 3-4 साल लगे, ठीक है, टू ग्रो दिस थिंग। एंड इन दिस 3-4 years the Congress, whose reputation has gone down in state elections, and then after they have lost the elections also, but then Congress was rebuilt by Mrs. Indira Gandhi. And in the Bangladesh Liberation War, she established that she is the most powerful leader of India. And then after, Congress has a thumping success all over India. Then, so just like that, Congress re-emerged in all over India. This grass was re-emerging all over India, and people started to call it Congress grass. Actually, it was a colloquial word. It was said कि आपके कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में कौन जीता है, तो लोग, पीपल यूज्ड टू से जहां देखो वहां कांग्रेस जीता है, ठीक है। एंड देन पीपल ऑल्सो यूज्ड टू से जहां देखो बस कांग्रेस ग्रास है, ठीक है। सो दैट्स हाउ इट वाज कॉल्ड एज अ कांग्रेस ग्रास, एंड देयर इज नो रेमेडी फॉर दिस ग्रास। इवन आज के टाइम पे दिस ग्रास हैज बिकम मोर रेजिस्टेंट टू मेनी वीडिसाइड्स एंड इंसेक्टिसाइड्स। देन so that is what US sells the things to the other world and other countries. So one has to be very careful while dealing with the US. I'll tell you, one of the very famous diplomat from US, he has a very high regard in the realm of the diplomacy. He's considered as the father of the diplomacy. But then Henry Kissinger, once he was asked that, can you tell the foreign policy of the US? So he said that I would tell you in one word. And he said that US has no permanent friends and foe. US has only interest. ठीक है? So no permanent friends and foe. कोई ना permanent दुश्मन है, ना दोस्त है. We have only interest. And the best example is Pakistan. It was friend till their interest was getting served in the Pakistan. Interest खत्म हो गया, ठीक है? Osama bin Laden dead, ठीक है? And then what all other things have already happened. They deserted Pakistan, and then now it is no more a friend. There are a number of the examples. So here we are not about to talk about the US, but then particularly this thing you needed to know that this is important. And इससे related interconnected कोई ना कोई question कभी ना कभी paper 1 में आता होता है. But then paper 1 also and paper 3 also, both the papers दोनों में पूछते हैं. पेपर 1 में if they are asking, so obviously it is the root of the geography, and in paper 3 so economic geography, ठीक है. So mention करो. And have you discussed? अभी तो कुछ भी discussion नहीं किया, but I hope you understood this entire part. Then so now let's come into the impact of the settlement. लिखो outcome या impact of settlement. Outcome or impact of the settlement. And in this part, so just listen. Pehle, let's talk about the British. So British were getting very huge income from this particular settlement, and they were able to save the administrative cost. So जो problem permanent में था और रायतवाड़ी में था, वो problem इसमें तो नहीं है. There is no problem of the income, and there is no problem of the administrative expense also. They were able to save it. So it was all boxes ticked for the British authority in this settlement. Then when it comes to the intermediaries, okay? So intermediaries were also reaping good benefit in this particular settlement. But then peasantry of this particular place was highly oppressed, and they were no different. Their situation was no different than the Rayatwadi and permanent. But one new phenomenon which has started to happen in this settlement is basically commodification of land. So in Rayatwadi we mentioned commercialization of agriculture, and here the key term is commodification of land. So commodification of land, understand what is commodification? Anyone? Land will be treated as a commodity. So for example, this is an easy commodity, this is also easy commodity, this is also easy commodity. Commodity का मतलब कि which can be easily purchased and sold in the market. ठीक है? पेन खरीदना है, easily purchased. ठीक है? Then there are n number of, for example, gold, easily sold and purchased in the market. So it's one of the best commodity. But is land fits in that commodity category? Can it be easily sold and easily purchased? बड़े tantrums होते हैं, ठीक है, परचेज करने में भी और बेचने में भी. But then here British have facilitated the creation of a land market where land can be easily sold and purchased. ठीक है, so land can be easily sold and purchased. And why this land was easily sold and purchased? Let's understand the situation. Situation is that suppose I am the peasant, my share is that I have to pay 1 lakh rupees to British authority, and then there was marriage of my daughter, पैसे खर्च हो गए, पैसे बचे नहीं हैं, and then how come I'll be paying the taxes? So in that situation, the Gram Pradhan, ठीक है, or the intermediaries, they will be forcing, who are the agents of the British, so they'll be forcing that you will have to pay the revenue, otherwise जमीन की जब्ती कर लेंगे, ठीक है, your land would be confiscated, and they will say to him that why not you sell a particular part of your land and make the payment. So then he will be forced to sell some part of his land. Now he is going to sell some part of land. So there is a land market. उस land market में just like in old Rajendra Nagar there are plenty of the property dealers. So it's just like the property dealers. These dealers. So now you are going to one dealer. He said कि आपकी जमीन की तो कीमत बस 1,05,000 रुपए है. It's just 1,05,000. इससे ज़्यादा नहीं मिलेगा. Then you are like कि check करते हैं किसी और से. So you went to somebody else. He said उसने तो गलत बोला, it is 95,000. ठीक है, कोई इसे 1 रुपया ज़्यादा दे दे तो बता दो. Then so then everyone, so हिंदी में एक word use होता है ना, 60 गांठ. So everyone are, all of them are hand in glove, and that's how it works. So if you are going to one person, जैसे तुम्हारे पास अगर जो मैं गया तो ऑलरेडी मैंने इन्फॉर्म कर दिया किसी और को, वो गया था, ये रेट मैंने कोट किया था, बी केयरफुल, एंड दैट्स हाउ. So by the end of the day, what happens that I am convinced that the first guy who said 1,05,000 is the rate, let's sell it. So now I am convinced psychologically I will be selling the land to him. Okay, I have paid to the intermediaries, and then after the same land has been sold in 2 lakh rupees to somebody else. Okay, so and share goes to the British authority. So this is what was happening in the Punjab. And since क्यों rates ज़्यादा पे sell होता था, it was a fertile land, very fertile land. So people were ready to give high rates then. So that's how this is leading to the commodification of land. Another problem with this particular settlement was land records. Very faulty land records were maintained in the settlement. The core of the settlement or core values of the settlement were based on the survey and the measurement of land. उसी के basis पे the taxes would be applied. But the problem was that since British are avoiding administrative cost, so there was the people who would be going to measure the land and maintain the record, they were very less. So rather than the land measurement happening on ground, what they were doing, these lower level officers, patwaris and lekpals, ठीक है, so since they were overworked, they are going to villages and they are measuring the land on the basis of assumption. What is assumption? ठीक है, let me tell you. So गए वहां पे और देखा land, and then since they are overworked, so they'll be saying देखने में तो लग रहा है 5 एकड़ है, लिख लेता हूं. Then it is not 5 एकड़, ठीक है, but they have written. Somebody else's देखने में तो लग रहा है 10 एकड़ है, लिख लेता हूं. So no real measurement is happening, but only on the basis of idiosyncratic estimate. They were writing it on the paper, and that was the biggest fault of this particular measurement, because one of the problem at the time of the India's independence was the faulty land record, and that land record is continuing from this particular settlement. Then so that is one problem. Then moreover, so इस problem के अलावा We will talk about the revolts which has happened, but later on. So एक बार लिखो, mention करो. Very first you write all the boxes. पहला number 1, all the boxes for British authority. All the boxes for British authority were rightly ticked. Were rightly ticked in this settlement. Were rightly ticked in this settlement. Then mention rightly ticked in this settlement, and they reaped huge benefits. And they reaped huge benefits so as they reaped huge benefits so as saved the administrative cost of collection. Saved the administrative cost of collection. Done. Then next point you write. Number 2. It also benefited the intermediaries. It also benefited the intermediaries. Third, it led to commodification of land. It led to commodification of land, which means land became a commodity, to be easily sold and purchased, in the land market. To be easily sold and purchased in the land market. Brackets में लिखो. British authority easily sold and purchased in the land market, full stop. Brackets में you write British authority facilitated the creation of land market. In which rate of the land were decided by them. In which rate of the land was decided by them. Rate of the land was decided by them. So this is what is about one part. Then you write. Next point. Land survey. Next point. जितना भी number है. Land survey was at the core of this settlement. Land survey was at the core of this settlement, but it failed miserably. Full stop. Faulty land records were created on the basis of idiosyncratic estimate. I'm writing spelling on board, you can see. Idiosyncratic estimate. But not on the basis of actual measurement. Then so this is what is about one part. एक last भी अभी है. So what about the peasants, how they are responding? So peasants, they are losing their land. That is one such problem with them. And after some point of time, they realized that actually what they are losing and what is the reason behind it. So there was agricultural depression of 1829 then, and in which agricultural depression का मतलब सूखा, ठीक है, basically some agricultural calamity is there. So in that the production has gone down and still they were forced to make the payment, and that is the time most of their land has gone to sell then. So agricultural depression of the 1829 further aggravated their problem, and the peasantry of the North India, okay, they were not going to sit back. Their frustration and anger was to be expressed rather loudly. And when? In 1857 revolt. So when it comes to who, from which area the maximum participation of the peasant was there, that is the north and the northwest area. So mention karo, you right? The agricultural depression of 1829, the agricultural depression of 1829 further aggravated the problems for further aggravated further aggravated the problems of peasants of North India. Further aggravated the problems of peasants of North India. Full stop. Their anger and frustration. Their anger and frustration was to be expressed rather loudly in the revolt of 1857. Was to be expressed rather loudly in the revolt of 1857. Done. So that's it. That's all about the land revenue settlements, permanent, Rayatwadi and Mehalwari. Okay? So I don't think that in this section you need any reference. बाकी जगह पे अगर जो कुछ देखते भी हो तो that's fine, but in this section it will be enough, and it was enough for this year paper also, all the 15-year paper also. But now I'm telling you, prelims में तो मैंने predict किया कि आएगा तो आ गया, but in mains also I'm of the view कि इस year तो नहीं, but next year they will be asking a question related to the permanent settlement or any of the settlement. So in 2 to 3 years it is going to be there in the mains exam also. Let's see. So let's come to the next topic. Now we are leading to the revolt time, and revolt ke baad would be the new beginning, that is the crown rule. So by the time of the revolt will be done with the 45% of the syllabus. 10% would be the socio-religious reform. So now we are going to start our topic of the civil and tribal uprising. Civil and tribal uprising. So now understand that in between 1757 to 1857, not only the big regional kingdoms, they have fought with the British authority, but at the same point of time, large number of the peasants and tribal communities, they have also rose against the British authority, and so as their agents like the revenue collectors or zamindars. So these are the uprisings that we are going to see, that starting from the 1770s until 1857. There are two revolts which I will be mentioning, that is after 1857, but then generally the character over here is all about before 1857. So before moving into it, we have written the word tribal uprising. And understand, at the time of the India's independence, there were many challenges before the newly created government. One challenge was integration of the princely state. Then second challenge was land reform. And the third challenge was how to integrate tribal in the Indian society. So tribal communities in Indian society. So now understand, before going into the revolts, we need to understand the characteristic of the tribal society. It will help us in understanding the revolts also, and at the same point of time the question, that integration wala question, that why Jawaharlal Nehru was confused at that time, that how we must integrate the tribals into the developmental arena. So that is what is. So tell me, let's go ahead with it. Features of the tribal society and characteristic features of the tribal society before independence. We are not talking about today's time. आज के टाइम पे बहुत कुछ बदल चुका है. Whatever we'll be writing, not everything is applicable in the tribal society in today's time. Some part are applicable, but then what are the unique aspects of the tribal society? Shifting cultivation, but then ये यहाँ पे इतना relevant नहीं है. Not all the tribal communities are known for the shifting cultivation. Yes. हाँ, unique culture. They have a very unique culture. What culture is followed in the mainstream society may not be reflected in the tribal society. ठीक है? So they have unique culture. Then kind of, yes. So they have been the original inhabitants, the indigenous community of a particular land, and from very long time, more than thousands years. ठीक है? So and these particular land or these particular habitations are isolated locations also. Okay, so they generally prefer to live isolated from the mainstream community. Then, so rightly said. Then what else? Anyone else? They are they are kind of a closed society. Good, that they are a closed society. Closed society का मतलब यही होता है कि the practices are shared in a community and nobody from outside is allowed to enter into that particular community. Then, so they maintained their homogeneity. And so chalo, I'll go ahead with this all terms, and whenever see that ये question you can be asked in the paper 1 also, and so as paper 1 के अलावा I think optionals में भी कुछ हो सकता है, like history also, sociology also, anthropology also. So these all places also the tribals are a very important part of the syllabus. So we need to write some technical terms also. Not technical, I would say, but the terms of the society. So that will fetch you extra mark. So let's start with very first one. When we talk about the features of the tribal society, the very first thing I would mention about them is homogeneous. Tribal communities are homogeneous in nature. What do I mean by homogeneous? Similar genes, they share similar genes, their blood lineage is similar, okay? Their genetic lineage is similar, okay? And on the basis of the homogeneity only a tribal society is created. So for example, that if some people are, that some a tribal community is Munda, so then they have the same genetic community, belonging to the same genetic community. Mundas are different from the Gondis, दोनों साथ ही इलाके में है, ठीक है? तो साथ ही इलाके में है, एक अगल बगल ही रहते हैं, but then both are not the same. They are the different tribal communities because their genetic codes are different. Then Baigas, ठीक है? So they are also from the area of the Jharkhand, ठीक है? But then they are a very primitive tribe. So they have their own genetic community, ठीक है? So same genes. Then tribal societies are generally unstratified in nature. So tribal societies were unstratified in nature. What is unstratified? There are? Yes, very good, exactly. So there are no social divisions in the society. So any kind of division on the basis of the caste, class or religion is non-existent in the tribal society. Everyone is similar then in tribal society. But what about the mainstream society? There are mainstream society is stratified society where we have n number of the divisions. Then, so for example, that division on the basis of the religion, Hindu, Muslim, okay? Then division on the basis of the caste, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Then this is one type, but then there is a class division also, that upper class, lower middle class, upper middle class. Then so there is that division. But is it the only division? There are n number of the division. There is a very important and very profound division in the society, that is the political lineage. Then हम एनडीए वाले हैं, हम यूपीए वाले हैं, ठीक है? तो हम आपके हैं, ठीक है? हम आपके हैं कौन, ठीक है? तो so there are these divisions. So there is a crystal clear division in the society. Then, but in tribal society, these kind of divisions are non-existent. Then, as you mentioned, So उसको मैं बोलूंगा that they live in geographically isolated area, geographically isolated area and from very long time. ठीक है? So very long time, more than 1,000 years, and they live in a isolated manner. Then next one is unique culture. ये सबने बताया था unique culture, ठीक है? तो that is one. Then unique culture. Then distinct means of livelihood. Distinct means of livelihood. What is livelihood? हाँ, earning, ठीक है? So their daily livelihood means that how they are earning for their daily survival, or basically for their food, for their shelter. So they have distinct means of livelihood, and it's actually dependent on the nature. And so it's very much dependent on the nature, because they are the one who are using the forest produce for their survival, and at the same point of time they are the one who are preserving the forest also and the nature also. Then so these are some characteristic. Then when it comes to sexual division of labor, so what kind of sexual division of labor? So when it comes to sexual division of labor in tribal society, is it skewed or is it more balanced? Balanced, okay? So very balanced sexual division of labor in the tribal society, but it's not balanced in the mainstream society. Then so mainstream society. Then as we said that nature, okay, so they are one of the preservers of the nature. And one way, not all the tribal society, but many of the tribal society, they preserve the nature on the basis of the concept of the sacred groves. Okay? So concept of the sacred groves, and with which they preserve the nature. So what is sacred grove? That ki ek particular natural setup hai, and that natural setup they consider it as a abode of the god, and they will not disturb it, okay, at all. So now I'll tell you one interesting story related to the sacred grove itself, and story, not just a story, but the question of the exam, prelims exam. So there would be some people from the Meghalaya. One of the very beautiful aspect of the Meghalaya is the living root bridges of Meghalaya. Okay? So living root bridges of Meghalaya, what is it? So since Meghalaya, as you all know, that receives the very heavy rainfall, and very heavy rainfall, and then after so many streams of water are there, rivers and the rivulets are there. So often people face problem in the rainy season or any season, okay, to cross the river. So there are some trees over there in the Meghalaya, indigenous tree, and their roots which are protruding outside. Okay? So have you heard about these kind of roots? What is the name? Stilt roots or prop roots. Okay? So they are called as prop roots and stilt roots. Okay? So I'll tell you, stilt is different thing. Okay? But prop roots. So these prop roots, कभी बरगद देखा है? बरगद से roots लटकते हुए देखा है? That's like that only, but they are very strong. So stilt क्यों बोलते हैं? क्योंकि they are strong. So what they do, that they tie it with each other. एक side river से दूसरे side river से they tie it, and with the tying, over the period what happens, a root bridge is created, and that root bridge becomes strong year by year. People use it for the passage. They don't cut the tree. Then so this is how not only they are preserving the nature, at the same point of time they are utilizing the elements of the nature for their own benefit. Then so this is what is there. Then have you heard about the mangroves? वैसे मेघालय की बात नहीं, मैं ऐसे ही जनरल इंफॉर्मेशन बता रहा हूँ. What is the speciality of the mangroves? Roots grow out, ठीक है, and it is in the backwaters, or basically backwaters या sea extension पे. But then you know, मैंग्रोव्स के रूट इतने स्ट्रांग होते हैं, जस्ट लाइक अ स्टील, जस्ट लाइक अ स्टील. आई वुड टेल यू, इफ दिस मच थिक, इसके डबल में, इफ दिस मच थिक रूट इज देयर, इसके डबल, देन यू कैन इजीली स्टैंड ऑन इट. ये झुकेगा भी नहीं, मुड़ेगा भी नहीं. So that is the best example of the iron roots, and it is emerging from the water. Then so nature has its own way. So tribal societies are known for the preservation of these all elements of nature. Then understand one more thing, जिसकी वजह से problems create होंगे British के साथ, and so as with the zamindars. So now another thing, that tribal society, do they practice the pattern of the private property holding? and where we practice private property concept, mainstream society, ठीक है, ये मेरी जमीन है, ये मेरा घर है, ये मेरी कार है, ठीक है, this is what is the private property. But then in the tribal society, the pattern which is practiced is the common land holding pattern. So the tribal land belongs to everyone, not to single person, ठीक है, it belongs to everyone and everyone would be working on it. Then another thing related to their culture, their unique culture and their unique livelihood. So they want to preserve it. Then they want to preserve it, and they don't like outsiders in their community. So outsiders are always a big problem to the tribal society. Here also I'll tell you one instance then related to the government of India's approach at that time. It is in 2011. Okay? It is in 2011, and as you know, Andaman and Nicobars are known for highest concentration of the different type of the tribals. Then, so these tribals, as we said, that they tribals are the indigenous community of that area, and then they are living from thousands and thousands of years. Then, so some areas, tourists and people from the mainstream area, they are not allowed to go. Okay, and some places, if anybody is allowed to go, so they will have to take the permission or permit of the government. Then, so inner limit permit. Then, so in Andaman and Nicobars, it is not allowed. But then somehow, what happened? किसी ने घूस खा के, ठीक है? This is what happened, that they allowed a tourist bus in one of the inner zones of the Andamans. And then after what happened, it was a bus full of the foreigners. They were carrying banana chips, ठीक है, and then these all everything. Now what they did, that these tribes of the Andaman, they saw the bus for the first time. They were excited that what is it then, and then somebody threw some food packet to them. They had it and they liked it. Okay, they started chasing the bus, and they were asking. So they were indicating that you dance and then only we will give you. Okay, these all was recorded. Then they were recording from their cameras, and they were throwing the biscuit packet. They were throwing the chips packet, and that's how they were dancing, and then they were doing it. And then after, that was the time when social media was वैसे तो emerge हो ही चुका था, but then YouTube was getting popular, and then they posted it on that this is how the deprived community of India is. Then everybody started to put their opinion. ठीक है, वैसे हिंदी में बोलूँ तो बहुत गंदा बोलूँगा, लेकिन बोलूँगा नहीं, ठीक है. So they started to put their opinion, to hell with their opinion, ठीक है, that the poorest of the poor, they don't have the access to this. It got popularized. And then there was a wake-up call for the government of India, that not only that it was announced to the people in the world that they are the tribals, and at the same point of time, the strict punishment must have been given to the people who allowed them then to go into that zone. And after that, there is a complete ban in many of the areas of India. Even an Indian cannot enter inside those areas. So for example, Andamans में ही एक area है Sentinelese Island, ठीक है? If you go to the Sentinelese Island, you may not survive. And someone who tried during the COVID period from US, he was going to teach them Christianity. He was a missionary, and then after they send him to the God, okay? So this is there. So you don't need to mess up with them, okay? Mess up with them, and they are the original inhabitants of that land. And it is for the governments to see this thing, that this never happened. And it was actually an issue for 2-3 years, this news. And these videos were circulating on YouTube. Government को बहुत time लगे YouTube से हटाने में. So that's it. So tribal community is a sensitive issue, and then how the government address at that point of time, we'll discuss that also. ठीक है? अभी लिखो थोड़ा सा. So you write features of the tribal society as a title. Features of the tribal society. So जैसे जैसे मैंने ये पॉइंट्स डाले थे ना, वैसे ही लिखो, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम दिस वन, ठीक है. सो स्टार्ट करो, जस्ट गिव मी 1 मिनट. यहां से, ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज आर होमोजेनस इन नेचर. Tribal societies are homogeneous in nature, which means They all belong to same genetic. They all belong to same genetic code. Same genetic code. They all belong to same genetic code, or or they all are blood related. They all are blood related. Number 2, tribal societies were unstratified. Tribal societies were unstratified in nature. Were unstratified in nature. Then, which means there were, no divisions. There were no divisions in their society. Next, they generally inhabited geographically isolated areas. They generally inhabited geographically isolated areas. Geographically isolated areas. And they never liked interference of outsiders. They never liked interference of outsiders interference of outsiders in their area. Next point. They practiced unique culture. Whereby nature was given very high importance. Nature was given very high importance. Very high importance. Then mention in some of the tribal societies, sacred groves were highly revered. Sacred groves were highly revered, whereby they protected some elements of nature. Whereby they protected some elements of nature. Then mention there was balanced sexual division of labor. Balanced sexual division of labor in tribal societies. Balanced sexual division of labor in tribal societies. Then mention they had distinct means of livelihood. Next point. They had distinct means of livelihood which was dependent on nature. Which was dependent on nature. Then mention tribals practiced common property holding pattern. Common property holding pattern. Practiced common property holding pattern and they didn't practice the concept of, they did not practice the concept of private property. Private property. Done? So these are some of the features of the tribal society. Okay? Now understand. So basically, that what I was saying, that issue of the tribal integration at the time of the India's independence and how our Prime Minister he solved it. That's what you study in the post independence. But लिखवाऊंगा नहीं, mention कर रहा हूँ. What is there? ठीक है? Just understand. Because here we are reading it from different perspective. तो लिखवा दूंगा तो बाद में confuse हो जाओगे कि क्या मतलब किस direction में जा रहे हैं. Here why we have written the characteristic, because any of it is disturbed, so they will be revolting. ठीक है? But then 1947 के time पे how the government tried to solve it. So there was one trusted aide of Jawaharlal Nehru. His name was very relevant. And then one famous personality, one professor, G.S. Ghure. So both of them, they suggested two strategies for tribal development in India. So let's talk about the G.S. Ghure. So G.S. Ghure, he was the professor of the sociology and he was the famous Indologist of that time. And he was from the Bombay University. So he's the one who suggested the policy of the assimilation. And what is this policy of assimilation? So basically he said that all the tribals must be brought into the mainstream development. Okay? Because if we leave them to develop in their own way, to practice what they are practicing, so they will always be very backwards in the development. So whatever access has been given to the mainstream society, there must be given to them, and in their area, just like the industries, educational institutes, everything is there in the mainstream area. Same way, the things must open in their areas also. So he is talking about the concept of assimilation. On the other hand, the trusted aide of the Jawaharlal Nehru, Verrier Elwin, what he suggested. So Verrier Elwin suggested that policy of the isolation. He said that if tribals are brought into the mainstream society, so they will lost their way and they will not be able to cope up with the one section which is developed, and they will not be developed. So they will not be able to cope up with, and so as they will, once they will lose their culture, so they will lose their identity and they will not be going in the developmental direction. So his idea was, let's develop them in the isolation, leave them completely the way they were. Okay, let them live in that own way. But then the problem with this is also that if you completely leave them, that is also not right. There must be some extension of the support from the government side to them. And what was the problem with the G.S. Ghure? Assimilation is always not a good concept, because assimilation leads to the losing of the identity. Okay? So losing of the identity, and once anybody loses his identity, so then they feel not like living on this earth. Then, so now both the concepts were not right. I'll give you some terms which are used in, which you can use in the writing any answer और किसी भी सब्जेक्ट में ये यूज हो सकता है, पेपर 1 हो या पेपर 4 ethics also. So these two concepts, assimilation is very similar to, or basically isolation, ठीक है, is leading to that everything isolated, but assimilation is similar to the concept of melting pot. And what Jawaharlal Nehru went ahead with policy of integration. So what was integration? That there would be no such greater intervention in the tribal areas. That industrial intervention would not be there. Displacement will not happen. But then some of the basic facilities will be extended to them. Government support will be extended to them, like education facilities, okay? Then medical facilities, then also reservation is also the part of it. So many such facilities would be given to them so that in a given pace of time, they can come closer to the mainstream society and they are not leaving their own culture. So this is the best concept, best thing which was he was going ahead with it, and this is called as salad bowl. So salad bowl का मतलब क्या होता है? Let's see, salad bowl, it is like that simple सा salad bowl में क्या होता है? In a salad bowl, each of the vegetable is there, and each of the vegetable, are they losing their flavor or flavor is intact? Intact, ठीक है? But सब together हैं, everyone is together, but everyone has their own identity. That is a salad bowl, that we all are together, but then we all have our own identity, and this is what is the concept of India, unity in diversity, ठीक है? But then over here, the same salad bowl, ठीक है? If you put it on a gas, that the gas fire, and then all the vegetables will melt, ठीक है? The vegetables will melt, they will mix with each other. So will you able to say that the टमाटर का टेस्ट आ रहा है या फिर गाजर का टेस्ट आ रहा है, ठीक है? All of them are mixed, ठीक है? So every vegetable has lost its own identity, and when you lose the identity, so you lose your relevance. So that's why assimilation or the melting pot is a negative concept, and integration or salad bowl is always a पॉजिटिव कॉन्सेप्ट. तो ये लिखवा नहीं रहा हूँ क्योंकि लिखोगे बहुत सारी जगह पे. सोसाइटी में ऑल्सो यूल बी राइटिंग, एंड सो एज यूल बी राइटिंग इन द दैट पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस ऑल्सो. देन so now I hope you understood this all discussion. Now we'll be starting with one by one all the revolts. Now understand, when it comes to the revolts, so revolt में will be starting area wise. थोड़ा बहुत आसानी होगा area wise जाने में. So first we'll start with the Eastern India and Bengal, and then after we'll move to the north, then west, then south. And moreover, majority of the revolts are there from the Bengal side, Eastern India side. What is the reason? Because British occupation of the Eastern India was at the very first place, 1765 itself. So 1765 से लेके 1857 तक, there is a great span of time. So obviously more revolts would be there. But what about the Maratha area? 1818 and 19 was the firm annexation. So there is a span of 1818 to 1857. Similarly, in North India, when was the Punjab completely annexed? 1849. तो थोड़ा कम time है. So that's why less number of the revolts are from there, this area. More revolts are there from the Eastern India. So let's start with the revolts. Eastern India and Bengal as a title. Eastern India and Bengal. So इसमें very first revolt I would write, number 1, Sannyasi uprising. So Sannyasi uprising 1770. Now understand, when it comes to Sannyasi uprising, so Sannyasi is a class of a Hindu ascetic then, and in Hindu society there are n number of the sannyasis, okay, or n category of the sannyasis. So these Hindu ascetics, in today's time we can identify 18 to 19 type of sannyasis. Then some of the names you must be knowing, okay. So for example, the sannyasis like Aghoris, okay. Then the sannyasis who are related to some akhadas, okay, generally related to the Lord Hanuman tradition, तो akhada sannyasis, ठीक है. Then naga sannyasi, ये तो लगभग सबने सुना होगा. So now understand, in Bengal there were the population of two type of sannyasi was very heavy, very large. That was Giri sannyasi and Naga sannyasi. So Naga sannyasis are those, I hope you know, that they live in the naked state and they live in the isolated area. They generally don't come out. They will be coming in a group itself, and that too on a holy occasion, and they are the one who used to take the dip in the water for the first time. Okay, particularly in the Kumbh Mela. So Kumbh, whenever Kumbh is organized, so they will be taking the dip first, then the normal public. Okay, so that is Naga sannyasi. And whenever they are moving from one religious place to another religious place, so they always carried religious weapons. So what are the religious weapons? The weapons like Trishul, okay, Bhala, okay, javelin. So these all weapons they are carrying. Then what about the Giri sannyasi? So Giri sannyasis were little different from the Nagas. So Giri, Nagas never lived a householder life. Householder का मतलब गृहस्थ जीवन. And Giris used to live the householder life. But then once their responsibility of the householder life is completed, so then they completely leave the house, and then after they also carry the weapons, they visit one religious place to another religious place. So 1770, British authority imposed restriction on the movement of the Naga and Giri sannyasis. Then they were not allowed to visit any religious place. Now they felt that if they are not allowed to visit any religious place, so what is their life? So they organized the revolt. They started to attack on the company's factory and the company's treasuries. And in fact, they were very notorious at this point of time. British were not able to completely suppress them. Then, so meanwhile, एक तरफ सन्यासी रिवोल्ट चल रहा है, and at the same point of time, कुछ साल के बाद one more uprising started in Bengal itself, that is number 2. दोनों साथ में actually होता है. So Fakir uprising. So Sannyasi uprising and Fakir uprising started to happen together. What is who are Fakir? So Fakir are Muslim religious mendicants. Mendicant, you understand? Bhikshuk. Okay? Bhikshuk is different from the Bhikhari. Okay? Because Bhikshuk are the one who give religious services and then they will be taking the alms. So उसके बदले में भिक्षा लेते हैं religious services के, बिना कोई services के नहीं. So fakirs are also the type of the people who are moving from one village to another, and they also carried weapons. Okay, so they also carried weapons. Now British have imposed restriction on their movement also. So when the restriction on their movement was also, they also started to revolt, and they started to collude with the sannyasis. Okay, so they combined their revolt, and it is often called as Sannyasi Fakir uprising. So in this uprising, what they were doing, that they were raiding on the company factories. Okay? They were attacking on the company factories and the treasuries. So there's a one very interesting incident of it, that in one such incident, sannyasis and fakirs, they combined. They organized a raid on one of the company factory. When they reached over there, so company officials or the security guards were well prepared with their guns. Then what happened? They started to chase the sannyasis and fakirs with their gun, and with the gunshots firing each and every minute. Then, and sannyasis were running for their life, sannyasi fakir. After some point of time, the sound of bullets stopped. Then, and the fakir and sannyasis, they looked back that the security guards of the British, they have exhausted all their bullets. Now the U-turn started. They started to chase them. They chased them till the factory. और हिंदी में बोले तो कूटे गए. ठीक है? So and they looted the factory एकदम आराम से. ठीक है? So they were very notorious in this regard. Then, and in fact वो उस टाइम के पुलिस वाले भूल गए. यूपी पुलिस से सीखना चाहिए था. जब बंदूक की गोली खत्म हो जाए तो मुंह से ठाई ठाई निकालना चाहिए. Have you heard about it? तो स्किल है, यूपी पुलिस के पास एक अच्छा स्किल है. Then, so now understand. So this fakir, not only this, but then there are some other interesting things related to this sannyasi fakir uprising. There was one novel which was written in the background of this particular sannyasi fakir uprising, and moreover, this has been asked in the prelims exam also. So what is the name of the novel? Anand Math. Okay? So Anand Math is the name of the novel which was written in the background of this sannyasi fakir uprising. Now tell me, who was the writer of the Anand Math? Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. ठीक है? And any other name? Chatterjee. ठीक है? So Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and Chattopadhyay. So which one is right? Chatterjee or Chattopadhyay? Chattopadhyay is right. ठीक है? But according to you, Chatterjee is right. So both are right. Both are right. ठीक है? देखो ये मतलब इस ओकेजन पे एक्चुअली मतलब आई वेट फॉर दिस बिकॉज आई वांट टू टेल यू समथिंग रिलेटेड टू द सोसाइटी एट दिस टाइम. बोथ आर द सेम. ठीक है. Chatterjee and Chattopadhyay are used interchangeably. So basically, have you ever given the thought that caste का नाम कैसे पड़ता है? How the castes are named or how the castes were named? Not every caste, but some of the caste in India, there is a basis, there is a known story for it. I'll tell you. Particularly in the Brahmin society, चाहे वो नॉर्थ इंडिया हो ईस्टर्न इंडिया हो, देर इज अ वन सिस्टम. ठीक है. द सिस्टम इज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द वेदास. सो दोज हु हैव द नॉलेज ऑफ ऑल द वेदास, so Chatterjee and Chattopadhyay, ठीक है, and particularly in the UP and these all parts, UP, MP and Bihar, Chaturvedi. Then those who have the knowledge of the three Vedas, Tripathi and Tiwari. Then so those who have the knowledge of the two Vedas, as per the system, they will be Dwivedi and Dube. ठीक है. And moreover, those who have not the knowledge of a one prefixed Veda, but then mixed knowledge of everything, so he will be called as Mishra. ठीक है. मिश्रित नॉलेज मिश्रा. कितने लोग हैं क्लास में? कोई है? ऑब्वियसली देयर मस्ट बी. एंड तिवारी भी होंगे, त्रिपाठी भी होंगे. ठीक है. अच्छा, तिवारी त्रिपाठी इज ऑल्सो सिमिलर, बट देन यू नो nowadays what has happened, people start to differentiate themselves and they start to call themselves कि नहीं मैं इनमें भी ऊपर हूं. ठीक है. So for example, there would be some who will be using the title of Mani Tripathi. Then I don't know you have heard or not, so they will be saying कि हम त्रिपाठी में भी ऊपर वाले त्रिपाठी हैं. ठीक है. So then now understand. And what about the other there are many other castes also, ठीक है, in Brahminism. So for example, Pathak. So as per the system, it is believed that they didn't had knowledge of any Veda. They were just the Pathak of the Veda, readers of the Veda. Then so इन्हें कुछ नहीं आता है, बस पढ़ना आता है. So now बुरा नहीं मानना. So this is how the naming in the Brahmin community. ठीक है. So Dwivedi and Dube can be used interchangeably. Tiwari Tripathi can also be used interchangeably. Similarly, in Bengal, it is very strong. So Chatterjee and Chattopadhyay is used interchangeably. Mukherjee and Mukhopadhyay is used interchangeably. Banerjee and Bandyopadhyay is used interchangeably. If Mamata Banerjee wants, he can use the title of the Bandyopadhyay also. And for example, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, his title was Mukhopadhyay also. Then, so similarly, so this is how some of the caste names are there. But then what about the other parts of India? So let's understand. हर जगह कुछ ना कुछ तो कहानी है कास्ट के नाम पे. So for example, one of the very popular Brahmin caste in the Maharashtra is Inamdar. Then, and who are the Inamdar? So basically they were the Brahmins, but then these were those Brahmins who were given the religious land grant, and the religious land grant was Inam. Okay? So religious land grant was called as Inam, so they continued the title Inamdar. Then moreover, in Maharashtra, there is one more title which is very popular, Desmukh. Vilasrao Desmukh, Ritesh Desmukh, you must have heard. Then, so the Desmukh is basically related to the Maratha administration. During the time of the Shivaji's administration, that Des Pradhan, or here Des does not mean country, basically the area Pradhan. So he was called as Desmukh. So that title they continued as their title. Caste title. Then moreover, in Sindhi community, some of you must be there from the Sindhi community. So not everyone, but then majority of the Sindhi community continues the name of their profession as a caste. So for example, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, okay, who founded this Akasa airline. So what is the real profession of his family? Creation of the Jhunjhuna. Jhunjhuna is what? Toys. I hope you know. So they continued this title with the Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Then moreover, in modern Indian history, there is one nationalist whose name is S.S. Batliwala. So Batliwala, so his family profession was creation of the Batlis. Which Batlis? Sarab ki Batli. Okay? So then, and that's how Daruwala, okay? Bejan Daruwala. इससे अच्छा कोई नाम नहीं हो सकता है. And he was the most famous astrologer of India. तो एक तो बेजान और उसके ऊपर दारूवाला, ठीक है. But then predictions बहुत तगड़े थे. In fact, Bijan Daruwala happened to be one of the astrologer whose predictions were very right. Then, मतलब exactly right, whatever he used to say, that used to happen. ठीक है? And you must have heard about the Nostradamus. ठीक है? He was the better than the Nostradamus also in India. But then, Bijan Daruwala also, he very recently in the COVID period, his death happened. So, his predictions were right at the beginning. But in the later time, in last 15 years before his death, his predictions were not right. You know what is the reason? See, it is said, पता नहीं है तुम लोगों को पता है या नहीं, It is said that astrology is a vidya, ठीक है, which gets exhausted by using it, ठीक है. If you have used it, ठीक है, in the initial phase or any phase very aggressively, so your vidya is exhausted, and then after your predictions would not be right. So if anybody is a very good astrologer at one particular time, 10 साल के बाद कोई जरूरी नहीं है that he will be a good astrologer as per the belief system. That's what I'm telling. इसमें साइंस में कुछ भी नहीं बता रहा हूँ, but then that's what is has been noticed about some of the very famous astrologers. One other famous astrologer of India is K.N. Rao. I don't know you know or not. He was also very famous, but nowadays he is a very smart person. I'll tell you. He knew that his vidya is exhausted. He stopped giving astrology to anybody after some point of time. So it's good that this is way you can just keep intact your reputation. That जब तक विद्या काम कर रही है करो, उसके बाद दिन जब काम करना छोड़ दिया एस्ट्रोलॉजी मत करो. तो anyways, so this is how the caste naming happens in India. अब now onus is on you that कि अपने अपने जिसके जिसके जो कास्ट हैं पता करो स्टोरी. कुछ यूनिक इंटरेस्टिंग हो तो मुझे भी बताना. पता करो फिर बताना. बट एक चीज बोलूंगा, कुमार के नाम में पीछे से पढ़ो तो राम का नाम है, ठीक है. सो अब इस पे सर्च करना, ठीक है. सो नाउ this is what is about. So Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and Chattopadhyay are the same name. Now tell me, what is another unique thing which is there in the Anand Math novel में? Who said? बोलो बोलो सही है. Vande Mataram. Yes. So Vande Mataram is written in this book. ठीक है? Was composed in this book. And what is relevance of Vande Mataram? We are going to see in the freedom struggle. It was the national song of the struggle. ठीक है? So it was composed by composed by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee in the Anand Math book itself. Then another thing, this both Sannyasi Fakir uprising was supported by some of the notable personalities of the Bengal. Their names were Chiragali, Bhavani Pathak, and Devi Chaudharani. So Chiragali, Bhavani Pathak and Devi Chaudharani. Now understand. So Chiragali, Bhavani Pathak and Devi Chaudharani. So they were dacoits. Okay? Yes, they were dacoits of Bengal and they were Robin Hood dacoits of Bengal. Robin Hood, you understand? Rich को लूट के poor को help करना. So they were looting the British. And so as the rich people, particularly the zamindars who are loyal to the British authority, so they were looting those and they are giving it to the people. So for example, that one of the popular story of the Bankim Chandra Chatterjee is the life of the Devi Chaudharani also. So Anand Math to पूछ चुका है, but they haven't asked in the prelims Devi Chaudharani. हाँ, in state pieces they have asked. So एक बार ये भी कहानी सुन लो, ठीक है? That what is Devi Chaudharani? As per the story that it is the story of a lady and her name I'm forgetting, but then her name was Harballabh or something. Okay? So what happened that it is her marriage which is getting conducted and she doesn't have father but then mother. At the time of the marriage, the father-in-law has demanded more dowry. ठीक है? जब शादी हो गई है उसके बाद, ठीक है? विदाई के टाइम पे. So he has demanded more dowry and mother didn't had anything to give. So then there was an altercation between them. And after the altercation, the Vidai did not happen. Okay? So he has not taken the girl with him. And then marriage has happened. Okay? But then girl has not taken to the home. Now, after a week or so, within a month, then that the mother was repenting that it is because of her that her daughter, even after getting married, she is not able to go to the husband's house. So she was so repentful about it that her death happened. After the death, the lady has become orphan, and then after she has only one option to go to the husband's house. When she went over there, so they expelled her, okay? And her father-in-law refused to recognize her, and he said that this marriage is null and void. Don't come to my door anytime. Don't come to my door after this. Then she was asked that how I would be living, okay? What I should do for my living. So then he said, go and do the dakati. Okay? She took it literally. Okay? And then after she was moving from one place to another place, searching for the people, okay, and people suggested that actually there is a dakat who is actually a very good dakat. Then, and he is very that helpful to the people who are in the need. And the name of the dakat was Bhavani Pathak, and his aide Chirag Ali. So Bhavani Pathak adopted Devi Chaudharani. Okay, this is the name which he gave him. Okay, and adopted. She became the daughter, and he made sure that she is getting some education also. And then after, they all were conducting the dakati. And these dakatis, they were helping the people of the rich, poor people. So now I'll tell you one last part of this story. So she was always looting the British, okay, and the rich jamindars, and she became notorious for the British. So British had their own designs, okay, to arrest her. Then, and they wanted to kill her. At the same point of time, in some another issue, they have arrested her father-in-law. She is remembering that who is he, okay? But in some other case, he has been arrested and he has been kept as a prisoner. So now, Devi Chaudharani creates a plan at this point of time for her own arrest, and she invited British for her arrest in the Hooghly River. Then, and then she maintained that I will be alone on the boat, and then you release me, okay? You arrest me and release that guy, okay? Father-in-law. So now she is alone on the boat, and British come with their 3-4 boats. Okay? They have arrested Devi Chaudharani. Okay? The moment they arrested all the divers of the Devi Chaudharani, meaning that all her men who were actually swimming in the river, they were inside. They came up with all their weapons, jumped into the boat, slaughtered the British, okay? And then after, her father-in-law was also released, okay? And she got a union with the father-in-law. That it's a kind of a kiski wo jo that there are some movies na, ठीक है, in Bollywood. मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है नाम, but then last में events बहुत जल्दी जल्दी होते हैं. We'll tell you जब याद आएगा तो. So what happened that her father-in-law. So now when he was released, he thanked Devi Chaudharani, but then he got to know that she was the daughter-in-law itself. So now the reunion of theirs has happened, and then the story happy thereafter. Okay? So, so this is what is. So now, so this story was also one of the very famous story of the Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. Okay? So mention karo. You write. Have you written any word? सन्यासी में लिखो. अच्छा चलो आने के बाद लिखना, ब्रेक के बाद. So start with पहला वाला लिखो, सन्यासी अपराइजिंग 1770. Mention. In Bengal, large number of Naga and Giri sannyasis. Now, large number of Naga and Giri sannyasis were present. Large number of Naga and Giri sannyasi were present. Full stop. They were known for visiting holy religious places, and they often carried religious weapons with them. Then mention religious weapons with them, full stop. In 1770, British Authority, 1770, British Authority imposed a restriction on their movement. And they were not allowed to visit any religious place, any religious place. In this situation, in this situation, they started attacking on, in this situation, they started attacking on British factories and treasuries. British factories and treasuries. Then combined subtitle you write. So second one you write Fakir uprising, and the date of Fakir uprising was 1776. So this one, ये नीचे वाला लिखो, Fakir uprising 1776. Then in this you mention Fakirs were wandering Muslim religious mendicants. Wandering Muslim religious mendicants. They also provided religious services. They also provided religious services by visiting one village to another. By visiting one village to another. Full stop. They also carried weapons. They also carried weapons while traveling. While traveling. Full stop. British authority imposed a restriction on their movement also. Then mention in this situation, sannyasi and fakir of Bengal. In this situation, sannyasi and fakir of Bengal started to collude with each other. And combinedly attacked on British treasuries. Combinedly attacked on British treasuries. Full stop के बाद लिखो, mention करो. These names which I have written: Chirag Ali, Bhavani Pathak, and Devi Chaudhrani. With the notable supporters of Sannyasi Fakir uprising. Notable supporters of Sannyasi Fakir uprising. Then a paragraph change, and then you mention later a novel Anand Mat was written. Later a novel Anand Mat was written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee or Chattopadhyay, whichever title you can write. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Novel Anand Mott was written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, comma, which was based on the background of, which was based on, after writing his name, after comma, and then you write, which was based on the background of Sannyasi Fakir uprising. Which was based on the background of Sannyasi Fakir uprising. Then you mention one of the unique aspect of this novel, was the song Vande Mataram. Was the song Vande Mataram, which later became Song of the Freedom Struggle. Done? Song of the Freedom Struggle. So this is what is about. Kabhi kabhi Sannyasi Fakir uprising, both the things they give together, okay, and sometimes separately also. So now you know that initially Sannyasi uprising started. फिर उसके बाद then from 1776 onwards, Fakir uprising also got associated with it. Then, so now let's move to the next uprising or next revolt from the Bengal area. So number 3. Pagalpanthi uprising. So नाम बढ़िया है. 1830s. So Pagalpanthi uprising, they were not at all pagal, okay? And here understand, the word panthi is the panth, and panth is the sect, okay? So basically it was a semi-religious sect in Islam. And the sect was founded by a person, Karam Shah, somewhere around 1815. So it was a religious sect in the Islam in the beginning. But later on what happened, that the sect was founded around 1815, but his son, whose name was Tipu, he took up the cause of the peasants. Then in which year? In 1830. So he took up the cause of the peasants, and then he advised the peasants not to pay the taxes to the zamindars or the British agents. And for a longer period of time, people, when they were not paying the revenue, so then British forces were sent to this area and it was suppressed brutally. Then, so understand, majority of the places we are not going to mention ki suppress ho gaya. It is inherent that many of them were suppressed, but wherever there is a fierce resistance from the Indian side, we'll be mentioning, and wherever there is a victory of the Indian side, that also will be mentioning. So एक बार लिखो इसको. So mention करो. It was a semi-religious sect. Founded in North Bengal. By Karam Shah. What is North Bengal? Which all areas will come in North Bengal? Yes, Darjeeling is there. And what else? Jalpaiguri, Siliguri, ठीक है. But it will also include, अभी हम इंडिया के हिसाब से बोल रहे हैं. Bangladesh will also be the part of it. Cooch Bihar, ठीक है. Even the Malda will also be the part of it, ठीक है. So Malda, Farakka, ठीक है, these all places, and the parts of the chicken corridor जो Bangladesh side है. Chicken corridor, you know, Siliguri corridor. तो वो भी, the entire North Bengal, including West Bengal and Bangladesh also. आगे लिखो, mention. Later in 1830, by Karam Shah, full stop, then you write. Later in 1830, his son Tipu took up the cause of the peasants. Against exploitation by against exploitation by zamindars and the British agents. Zamindars and the British peasants. No, sorry, British agents. British agents. Full stop. He advised peasants. He advised peasants to withhold the revenue. He advised peasants to withhold the revenue. Then and not submit before exploitative people. Not submit before exploitative people. Then so this is what is about the third one, Pagalpanthi. Then next you write fourth, Khasi uprising. 1829. So understand, Khasis are the tribal people of the Meghalaya. Okay? And in fact, I hope you know that the hill ranges are also named like that, Khasi, Garo and Jaintia. In fact, these are the tribal communities of the Meghalaya. But then there are other communities also. So understand, what is their problem? Problem is that British were going to create, they were creating a road which connected Sylhet to Brahmaputra Valley. Then, so Sylhet to Brahmaputra Valley, and in construction of this road, large number of the people or outsiders were brought in this area. Large number of the laborers from the plain areas were brought. Once the construction of the road was over, it was supposed that British will send back these people from the Meghalaya. But then what happened? They were not sending back. These people were inhabited over there. Looking at this outsider influence, Khasi community under the leadership of Tirath Singh organized the revolt. But very soon, this revolt was joined by many other tribal communities of Meghalaya, Garo, Khamtis, so as Singhapores. So these are also some of the tribal communities from Meghalaya and in and around area of the Meghalaya. So they also joined the revolt. Mention karo, right? British were creating a road to connect. British were creating a road to connect Brahmaputra Valley. Road to connect Brahmaputra Valley with Sylhet. With Sylhet. Full stop. For this purpose, large number of laborers from plain areas, large number of laborers from plain areas were brought. But later, after the completion of the road, British tried to habitate outsiders in this area. In this situation, Khasis organized the revolt under the leadership of Tirath Singh. Full stop. Very soon, very soon this revolt very soon this revolt was joined by very soon this revolt was joined by the other tribal communities like Garo, Khamti and Singapore. Garo, Khamti and Singapore. Then so next you write coal mutiny. Coal mutiny. What's the number? 5. So coal mutiny is 1831. 1831. So now understand that Kol are the tribal people of Jharkhand. But which area of the Jharkhand? So it includes the area of Ranchi, Singhbhum, Hazaribagh and Palamu. So Kol were the tribal communities of these 4 districts of the Jharkhand, that is Ranchi, Singhbhum, Hazaribagh and Palamu. Moreover, when you look at these all area, Hazaribagh, so Hazaribagh is a part of the Chota Nagpur Plateau, okay? And in fact, this is the mineral belt of India. That Chota Nagpur Plateau ka part, Ranchi, Singhbhum, Hazaribagh and Palamu. And highest concentration of the mineral resources of India, some of the that minerals are mainly found over here. So it includes iron, it includes some of the other elements like manganese, mica, take a good number of the minerals. So British had the eyes on these minerals, but then these areas are under the tribal control. So what they did, that they started to transfer the land from this area, okay, to the outsiders. So from the coal headman, now it was transferred to the outsiders. And as we mentioned earlier in the characteristic, that they are practicing common property holding pattern, meaning that land belongs to everybody, but now it is becoming private property when it is sold to the outsiders. So this is the time when Coles organized revolt under the leadership of person Buddhu Bhagat. So name is Buddhu, but he was not Buddhu. Okay. So they organized revolt, and their initial endeavor was to burn the papers of the transfer. Okay. So they were entering into the houses of outsiders and they were burning the paper. But then British authority, when they have heard this, so they resorted to the extreme violence, and it is said that more than 1,000 Kol people were killed in this particular suppression by the British authority. So mention karo, Kol were the tribals of, and write the name of these all districts. Kol were the tribals of Ranchi, Singhbhum, Hazaribagh and Palamu. Then mention. It was the mineral belt of India, and British tried to control this area, through overt and covert measures. Overt and covert, नहीं लिख पा रहे हो, OVERT and COVERT, मतलब शाम दाम दंड भेद, मतलब किसी भी तरीके से, हुक और क्रुक बोलते हो ना, तो overt or covert measures. Then you write after it, they started transferring land from coal headmen. They started transferring land from coal headmen to outsiders from Bengal and other plain areas. To outsiders from Bengal and other plain areas. Full stop. They mention. In this scenario, coal organized the revolt. In this scenario, coal organized the revolt under the leadership of. In this scenario, coal organized the revolt under the leadership of Buddhu Bhagat. And they tried to burn the property papers of transfer. They tried to burn property papers of transfer. Then they'll mention after it property paper of transfer. British suppressed this revolt. British suppressed this revolt with immense brutality. Immense brutality. British suppressed this revolt with immense brutality, which led to the killing of more than 1,000 coal people. More than 1,000 coal people. Then next you write after it 5th and 6th and 7th. So 6th you write Paika Rebellion. Paika Rebellion, 1817. So understand, what is this Paika Rebellion? So Paika Rebellion is basically, Paikas were, अभी पहले ध्यान से समझो, that they were landed militia of Kingdom of Khurda. So landed militia of Kingdom of Khurda, which is in Odisha. Then, so what do we mean by landed militia? Meaning that they are military people and they are providing the military service to the king of Khurda. In return of that military service, they were given the land grant. And these land grants were rent free, meaning that they were not supposed to pay any taxes. Then, so it is just like the Jagirdari system, that they are given land grant and they are not supposed to make any payment. Okay? So now what has happened, that it was all fine, but permanent settlement may we have written that initially it was introduced in the Bengal, Bihar and later on in Odisha. So Odisha it was introduced in 1803. And when they introduced it in Odisha, so they started to tinker with the land revenue system of the Odisha, which often led to the revolt by the peasant. But in 1817, British revoked the rent-free status of the Paikas, meaning that from here onwards, they will also have to pay the taxes. So when it was revoked, so Paikas organized rebellion under the leadership of Bakshi Jagbandhu. Initially, they were successful in expelling the British from Khurda, but later on, British came with a greater preparation and completely suppressed the revolt. So mention karo, you write that Paikas were landed militia. Paikas were landed militia of the Kingdom of Khurda. Landed militia of Kingdom of Khurda. Then mention. They provided military support to Khurda king. They provided military support to Khurda king, and in return, they were granted rent-free estates. They were granted rent-free states. Then mention. In 1803, British started to tinker. In 1803, British started to tinker with the land revenue system. Started to tinker with the land revenue system of Odisha. Tinker with the land revenue system of Odisha, which often led to peasant uprising. Which often led to peasant uprising. Then mention after it peasant uprising, full stop. In 1817, British revoked rent-free states of picas. Rent-free states of picas. Revoked rent-free states of picas, and now they were supposed to make payment. They were supposed to make payment. Mention further. In this situation, picas organized revolt under. In this situation, picas organized revolt under the leadership of Bakshi Jagbandhu. Bakshi Jagbandhu. Full stop. Initially, they were successful. Initially, they were successful in expelling. Initially, they were successful in expelling British forces from Khurda. British forces from Khurda. But later, British came with greater preparation, and suppressed the revolt. Came with greater preparation and suppressed the revolt. So now the next one you write Ahom rebellion. What is the number? 7. So Ahom rebellion. How many of you are aware about it? Yes? Okay. Bahadur Sa, nahi. हाँ. So I think, have you seen the videos? All of you? नहीं देखा है. See, 2 things you need to do. यहाँ, this is the rebellion related to the British. ठीक है, that we are going to talk about. And there is a one part of their history which is related to the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals. That's on there on the channel. ठीक है. So look at it. Actually, this is a beautiful story and one of the very interesting story. See, I don't know that who will be that. There are many faculties right now for the ancient medieval also. So anybody will come. Okay? But then that story gets lost and then sometimes it is not covered in the paucity of the time. So I would rather suggest that go to the channel and see that video today itself so that a home story will be completely known to you. I hope you know which video I am talking about. On channel, the channel which I have created. Okay? Culture Quantum and the Ahom Kingdom Empire and their General Lachit Borphukan. And so we'll tell you that little bit, क्योंकि obviously यहाँ पे वो पूरी story मैं नहीं सुना सकता, वहाँ पे 30-minute story is there, but it is very captivating. So understand. Let me tell you a little bit of persings of that. As you said that originally they were coming from the China actually. Ahom originally they were coming from that China, and then they became Indian. So they settled in Assam. Then settled in Assam, they accepted Hinduism, and then after they created their empire in the Assam Valley. So that is known as the Ahom kingdom, and particularly from which area? From Guwahati and going till the upper part of the Assam. Okay? So this is the area where the kingdom was there, and entire Brahmaputra river was also under their control. Then what happened? Delhi Sultanate time. So that time, many a time there were endeavors from the Delhi Sultan to capture this area. None of them were successful. Then Jahangir started his endeavor to win this area. He was thoroughly defeated. Shah Jahan's time, there was some sort of agreement, but not complete success. And Aurangzeb's time. So Aurangzeb's time, what has happened? That there was initial success of his general. Initial success of his general Mir Jumla. But then his story itself is a very interesting. It is said that he was killed by the black magic of the Assam. So though he was successful, but later on he was. So this is actually that these parts are also there then in their history, and often, but not offense to anybody, but you must have seen that कि लोग comment करते हैं कि ये इधर में बंगाल में उधर में काला जादू बहुत चलता है, तो ये मुझे नहीं पता है, लोग कहते हैं, मैं वो कह रहा हूँ, ठीक है, मरवाओगे तुम लोग मुझे, ठीक है, तो so then that story is also there. That's part of their fight also. They have used these all kind of thing. And 17 times they had struggle with the Mughals, and final success was in the hands of the Ahoms. Okay? So Aurangzeb's life, one of the biggest defeat of the Aurangzeb's life was the Battle of Saraighat, which he had got from the hands of the Ahom. Then, and that is the time when his general was Ram Singh. Okay? And Ram Singh was the son of the Savai Raja Jai Singh. Okay? Jai Singh, who has defeated Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Then interesting story. Just look at it. Okay? And then after understand. So when and why this victory was possible? Because of their general Lakshit Borphukan. So Borphukan is in the news from last 2-3 years. जैसे हम पहले बोल रहे थे ना कि यूपीएससी जब लगता है that the year of the news they will not ask the question, उसके 2 साल बाद they will be asking the question. ठीक है? That's what is the general tendency. So last year only 2023 में only our prime minister he inaugurated a very good statue, very big statue of the Borphukan in Guwahati, just like कि ये सरदार पटेल वाला statue है, and then Ramanujacharya statue in the Hyderabad. So Ramanujacharya was also asked in the exam, but not in the year in which it was unveiled, the year after it. And moreover, NDA में there is a medal, ठीक है? The best cadets are given Lachit Borphukan medal. ये भी याद रखना, ठीक है? That Lachit Borphukan medal. So and Assam government is celebrating his history. So that is important, and those who are from the northeast also, for them also it is important कि state exam दे रहे हो तो बहुत important है. So now understand. So they had complete success against the Mughals. Now at this point of time, what is this battle about? Ahoms were not defeated till this point of time, and at this time, Ahom area was used by the British authority during First Burma War. And when was the First Burma War? So 1824 to 26. And British pledged that after the Burma War is over, they will withdraw from the territory. They pledged that they will be withdrawing from the territory. 26, Burma War was over, but then they made a U-turn of their promise. They had already occupied the area and they are not leaving the area. So this is the time that when Ahoms once again, they have that organized the revolt under Gomdhar Kunwar. Then leadership of Gomdhar Kunwar, they were successful, which led to the once again handing over of the territory of the Ahoms to their Raja Purandhar Singh Narendra. But then British did it deliberately. Okay? They handed over only to recover it later. Once they are residing in this area, understand, once they are residing in the area for 2 years, they got to know about all the strengths of the Ahom. Everything. Okay? And that's how later on they captured the area. So Ahoms who defended themselves for more than 600 years, they were kind of finally submitted to the British. So now at this time, I just want to say one thing to you. That is basically a book. The name of the book is The Art of War, written by Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu has mentioned the best of the wars, okay, are fought in mind, not on ground. Then, so best of the wars are fought in mind, not on the ground. This is why British were most successful, because they played with the mind rather than fighting on the ground. And rest of the wars were happening on the ground. So ground war is all about your exemplification of your force, that how you have applied your force, your strength. But then in the mind games, it's all about that how you apply your mind. And that's what they played in this area. So Ahom territory was under the sub control, not complete control we'll say, but sub control of the British. Okay? So mention karo, you write. During the first Burma War, British used Upper Assam area or Ahom territory. British used Upper Assam area or Ahom territory. Full stop. They pledged that after the end of war, they will withdraw from Ahom territory. But it was a false promise. Then it was a false promise, full stop. Then mention, in this situation, Ahoms organized revolt under Gomdhar Kunwar. Full stop. It was a successful rebellion. Which led to handing over of Ahom territory. To their Raja Purandhar Singh Narendra. To their Raja Purandhar Singh Narendra. So this is what is about this particular Ahom fight. But then still, abhi 7 hai na, so we have near about 13, 14 more rebellions that we need to cover. So we'll be doing it, I think, day after tomorrow. We have a class. And I think center is IAPL. यहाँ पे नहीं है. तो IAPL, ठीक है. तो next day we'll be completing this topic. Meanwhile, देख लेना. I would strongly recommend देख लेना video, and then if you find some important points, note it down. ठीक है, उसमें से कहीं से कुछ battle के नाम, most of the time it is asked. So next class will be completing this topic. We'll start with the 1857 revolt. ठीक है, चलो, thank you. Class है अभी एक ही थी, तो enjoy. मेरी है यहीं.